Sonja, it's lovely to meet you. And Lord Julian, it is so good to see you again. Congratulations to both of you on another absolutely sublime series of this.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
What I loved is you have thrown in so many twists, so many turns for all of these characters. Obviously, we know that at least part of the series is based on some of the characters are based on real life characters. So how did you both kind of decide where to take the characters, and how kind of do you kind of balance that historical fact and that historical accuracy with that kind of creative freedom?
Well, I think that the advantage of fictional characters who may be based on real people is that you're not limited to what happened to the real people. So you can do whatever you like. You might say Bertha is based on Alpha Vanderbilt, which is perfectly true, and she is, and certain incidents, how she tricked Mrs. Astor into coming to her ball and all the rest of it, these are all taken from life and so on. But we're not stuck to doing only what happened to Alpha, because Bertha is a different person. And I think that's the advantage. Again, you can say that her husband, George, is based on Jay Gould, but it doesn't mean that everything that happens to him happens to Jay Gould. And you know, the incident of the opening fire, or nearly opening fire, on the strikers, that was really to do with Clay Frick and Carnegie, and they did open fire. So it gives you a freedom to be inspired by the truth, but not to be limited by it. So that's the answer to that. But what was the other part of the question?
What
No, I think you kind of
you covered it.
kind of got it in one, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, Sonja, I know you've previously described the writing process with Julian as kind of like a real exchange, and you've spoken about working on the drafts with each other. What do you think the key is to making these characters authentic for a modern audience, whilst also kind of still staying true to the real life history of the period?
Well, as Julian said, they're inspired by, some real life historical people, and they're human beings just like we are today. And so they're flawed, they're multidimensional, they have their demons, they have their secrets. And so I think they're relevant today as they, were back then. They're still dealing with the same issues. They're dealing with divorce, they're dealing with, money problems, success, business ambition, moving up in society. And these are all universal themes that are universal to the human experience.
I think that is the key to, well, I hope more or less everything I do, but certainly to the Gilded Age, is these people are not a different species from us. They are the same species, and they are dealing with very much the same issues and the same problems. Of course, in different ways, because of the different customs and so on of the different period. But nevertheless, their initial response, their gut response, is pretty well the same as ours. And I think the public can't be reminded of that too often, really.
Yeah, and history rhymes. And so, I mean, there are things that happened back then, and there are parallels that we can draw today.
And Julian, speaking of kind of everything you do, you've really shaped the genre of period pieces on screen with Gosford Park and, of course, Downton Abbey. I kind of wondered, like, is there anything that your past experience has taught you about kind of anything that you now avoid or approach differently, especially as, let's just say you've got another big project coming out pretty soon in cinemas later this year as well?
I think as I've lived my life, I've changed my views about certain things, and I'm glad I have. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of living? That I think perhaps the main thing I've changed then, which is reflected in the drama I write, is that when I was young, I didn't really understand people who were not ambitious. I thought everyone had to want to get on and they have to make their mark and they have to do this and they have to do that. And I don't feel that now. I think that there are people who choose to live a more domestic life where their family is the center of their interests and the center of their ambitions and all the rest of it. And I see that now as a rewarding life. I think that's a good life. And if people choose it, they're lucky. And so in that, I think I've changed, and I think it's influenced the drama in that not every character I'm interested in is leading some sort of magic Gilded Age life with, everything made of gold. And it's also the ordinary people who are just trying to get on with their lives as well as they can. And they happen to be doing it in 1882 and others are doing it in 2025. But I think that I'm kinder, really, than I used to be.
That's a very interesting point. I actually love that. Even if some of your characters are not so kind. I will just say I'm being told to wrap up, but it's absolutely amazing chatting to both of you. Thank you so much. And can I just say on a personal level, Julian, I know the last time I spoke to you, we spoke you played very much coy about Downton Abbey. Thank you for delivering both another film this year and another series of the Gilded Age all in 1 year. You've got this period drama fan very happy and appreciative.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.